And we're joined by Mayor Colin Basran. It's pretty notable that in the last few weeks, we've had the head of our local RCMP detachment and yourself publicly criticizing the way our justice system is currently working. Should I take it from that it's a widely held view that this system is broken?
Well, I would say as it pertains to dealing with people with mental health and addiction issues who are perhaps turning to crime to feed those issues, is the system broken? I would say that there's a number of systems that need to be revamped in order to fix what is a massive problem, not only in Kelowna, but right across the province and the entire country. And so I don't want to point the finger just at our justice system. This is predominantly a healthcare issue when you talk about the fact that people who are out on our streets and who are committing crimes are dealing with some kind of trauma, mental health, addiction, brain injury. But I can tell you that from a criminality perspective, it is very frustrating when we have people who have long records of crime continue to be caught and released without truly getting the rehabilitation they need. When we have most recently a murder take place in our city where the person responsible is apprehended, but due to what's called disclosure requirements by the RCMP and needed for Crown to press charges, that person was not able to be kept in custody. It just is raising all sorts of red flags to us as a municipality that clearly something needs to be fixed, because there's definitely something broken.
So this particular example fits into it this way, I understand, that typically what we're talking about are people who are struggling with homelessness and addiction and mental health issues and entrenched criminal behavior and these sorts of things. But then we see an example of someone who is arrested by the RCMP for murder, and even they can't be kept in custody while the investigation dots the I's and crosses the T's.
Yeah, so you've pretty much nailed it, is that, and first of all, I want to say I sympathize with these business owners who are continually being hit. We continue to invest in RCMP resources and are doing the best that we can. But I think what you've just pointed out paints a much broader picture, in that if you think it's frustrating that the person breaking into your business, if identified, isn't taken into custody and kept there, the fact that somebody can take a life and still not be kept in custody until such time as the investigation concludes gives you a sense of just how broken this system truly is. And so believe me, I get the frustration of business owners who are continually being broken into. But I guess at the end of the day, when somebody is identified and potentially arrested, they aren't going to be doing any time, and they're just caught, released, put back on the streets, and this cycle repeats. So how do we end? So the big question of all levels of government and our community, because this is a community problem, is how do we fix this recurring nightmare for so many people? And that is not a simple fix. At the very core of it, it requires getting people housed, but it also requires getting them the supports they need for rehabilitation. But we also know that there are some people in our community, due to their mental health, addiction, brain injury, trauma, will never be rehabilitated, will always be a harm to themselves and the public. So where do those people go? They need to be in places where they can receive compassionate care, but perhaps they can't leave. And that's a conversation that we've been having with the provincial government. But thus far, the province is not necessarily open to amending the Mental Health Act to allow that to happen. So we're having positive conversations with the province. We're hopeful that there will be housing and intensive supports provided by the province in the coming weeks. We'll hear announcements for projects. But we also know that we can't, and it's not fair to put the entire burden on a healthcare system that right now is severely overtaxed and doesn't have the money in their budgets to just create new spaces for people for treatment and rehabilitation. So we talk about the justice system, but there's a number of things that need to happen here in order for people to actually get better and for our community to be in a much healthier place.
And it's not just a Kelowna problem. You were signatory to a letter that went to the provincial government from the Urban Mayors Caucus demanding better systems for these complex individuals. But it also seems to indicate that the province is working exactly on that right now.
So the province is working with us on what we're calling complex care housing, because right now we have housing options in our community available, but it doesn't have the treatment supports for people to, particularly those who are still on our streets with the, I guess, most significant cases of trauma, mental health, and addiction issues. So they are, the City of Kelowna has been very involved in helping the province create what this model of care will look like. So kudos to our staff here and to council for helping push this forward. And we do believe that there are announcements that are imminent in terms of pilot projects to get those on our street who are causing the most trouble, who are taking up the majority of our RCMP's time, who continue to be the catch and release individuals that our court system is dealing with. And this will get them not only housed, but will get them the help that they need. But we continue to wait. We've been talking about complex needs housing now for well over a year with the province, and while great conversations have happened, enough's enough. We know what the answer is. Let's get on with helping build it.
A few things to point out in the case of this homicide in the Lower Mission. Not only has no one been convicted in this case, but no one's even been charged. It's also important to note that to be convicted of murder, it's not just a question of who did it, but what was their intent and what was their state of mind as well. For Kelowna Now, this is Kent Mulgat reporting.